Here we go with another great interview with Kristina Parker of K.P. Knitcraft here in Richmond, Virginia. Hope you like this content. If you are, please like and subscribe, and also make sure you watch the video. You'll be able to see all of her great creations. Hey everybody, Bill, the boring old guy here, and we're here with Kristina, right?
Yep.
Kristina with K.P. Knitcraft, and we have all her stuff today at the American Legion. I'm seeing here. So just wanted to talk to her for a couple minutes and talk to her about what you do. So first off, I have to ask, K.P. Knitcraft is absolutely fantastic. So how did you come up with that?
So Kristina Parker.
That I caught.
The first name is with a K, unlike what's common with the CH. And I happen to be a huge Lovecraft fan.
Okay.
I'm from New Hampshire, so that New England H.P. Lovecraft thing is like in my roots.
Makes sense.
And when I started the business, it was initially a custom knitting company.
Really?
Because I have 30 years experience with 2 sticks.
Okay. Wow.
And one of the things is that I am quite tall,
Yeah.
and I don't have a very particularly feminine body, so clothes don't fit.
Okay.
They're either too short or they're too tight for your shoulders, and I kind of figured that I wasn't the only person who had this issue.
Yeah.
Standard sizing in the U.S. hasn't been updated in way too long.
Or will it get updated?
Right. Unfortunately, they're still from the time when we wore corsets.
Yeah.
So I started putting feelers out, like who would wear knitted skirts that were actually designed to fit that specific body, not a range of bodies. And it just kind of snowballed. It went from there, and I would do shows with your standard shawls. And I stayed away from scarves and hats because I always figured that's where the beginners come in.
Okay.
So I would do these really big ostentatious things.
Okay.
And then unfortunately COVID happened.
Yeah.
And with lockdown, there was a lot of questions on how long the virus lived in certain fibers. We had all of the information for hard surfaces.
Okay. And nothing for fibers.
And nothing for fibers. And when you started looking at fibers, they had all of this information on plastic. I don't work with plastic.
Yeah.
It's natural as I can get it. So I played a waiting game, and unfortunately during that waiting game, it got to a point where it was going to be change the business model or close the doors. And this is what I do for a living. There's no day job for me. So it was a scramble. You do what you got to do. And in a moment of depression, I will fully admit there was a pint of Ben and Jerry's involved. I was hanging out with the kids, watching TV, and we were watching one of those Saturday marathons of how it's made. And there was an episode on top hats and bowlers.
Really?
And I sat there and I was like, okay, I don't have the machinery.
Yeah.
But how do I do that at home? Right. And I got in the studio, and I spin as well, so I already had loose fiber.
Okay.
And got in the studio and started playing with it, needle felting, wet felting, and a hat was born.
That's awesome. Yeah, and your hats are incredible. And I'm going to put the links to her Instagram and her Facebook and her website below, because the images of her hats are absolutely fantastic.
So a lot of the big crazy ones, those are all for one client.
Really?
Her name is Brandy.
Okay.
I love her dearly. She kept me alive in that year.
She's the one that's modeling all your pictures?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
And she's a huge top hat fan.
Okay.
So she found me at a show, and I didn't have top hats, but she was like, can you do top hats?
Yeah.
Haven't done one. Give it a shot, And she's now up to 10 that she owns, and I believe there are 6 on the docket.
Wow.
For her. And she wears fedoras, and she's just gotten into tricorns too, but she's a lot of fun because she brings these big ideas.
Yeah.
They're not conservative hats. They have a theme, and she wants big and she wants bold. And she's got another hatter that she works with that really does these big, crazy poly felt top hats. So they can support a little more weight than a wool top hat can. So with me, she's learned that you can get big and bold without it actually being big.
Gotcha. There was a really cool story that's on your Instagram about the lady in South America that you sent a hat to.
Yes.
How did that evolve? That was really cool.
So I play this silly video game, and it is like an MMORPG kind of thing. It's a point and click on a tablet or a phone kind of game. And one of the guys that I game with, he's Italian.
Okay.
Like from Italy, Italian, but he lives in Colombia.
Okay.
And we got to talking about hats because I guess his dad was huge into hats and wore these absolutely beautiful Italian handmade fedoras his whole life. So we ended up taking the conversation over to Facebook where I could send photos and things like that, and he ordered an alpaca hat for his wife. And we got to talking about the social economic structure in Colombia, and he was like, look, he's like, I can walk down the street and spit at 6 alpaca farmers.
Really?
He's like, but the cost for in-country to have something produced is so high that it's actually cheaper to have it shipped in from America. And I was just like, I was kind of flabbergasted because here's this guy who has experience of really high-end hats. I mean, you're talking $600-700 hats.
Okay.
Who wanted one of mine, and it was humbling.
I bet.
And I put a lot of extra care into it to make sure that it was right, and I sent it off, and we actually sent it to Florida because he has a service that forwards from a PO box in Florida.
The picture of her, she's just beaming.
So happy. And he sent me the photos and just a really heartfelt thank you, and mentioned that my hat was the same quality that he remembered, which for me, because I hadn't had anybody touch one of my hats who really was into hats, that was the epitome of that's the best thing anybody could say to me. And it was just, we still talk, like we're still friends on Facebook, we're no longer talking in the game, but and she wears it every day.
That's awesome.
And to me, I try not to price gouge because I want people to love what they purchase from me. I don't want you to purchase something that's pretty and just put it on display. It's useful. Use it, please. If something happens to it, let me know because I'll fix it. So the embroidery kind of came from a place of, in the vendor world, they're what we call smalls. All right, they're $5, $10 to $20 items, usually the cash that somebody has in their pocket. And when I got into hats, I realized that my bottom price was $60. So I needed something smaller and big and colorful to kind of draw the eye. And 10 small sales is the equivalent of a hat.
Right.
So it works out that way. And I started with something that I thought was very useful, which was towels. There's something to be said for a really good hand towel that lasts and doesn't hold stains or can be bleached. I have boys, therefore towels are very useful in my home. And I wanted to get as far away from paper towels as possible. Between kids and pets and spouses and all of that, we were going through a roll and a half to 2 rolls a day.
Ouch.
It was a little ridiculous. So I initially made these for myself.
Okay.
And it just kind of snowballed from there. I love vintage imagery, that line art, those sketches. So I do a lot of scouring of the interwebs for those types of images, and then I convert them to an embroidery pattern. So at the end of the day, they're mine. Some of these, my roommate is an artist. She's currently working on a coloring book, so I have some of her art.
Nice.
And no, I don't steal it. I pay her for it because that's what you should do with your friends.
Right, exactly.
So some of these bigger, bolder ones are hers. Some of them come from my childhood. This was the border in my grandmother's kitchen.
Oh, really?
And I had an old, 5-10 photograph close up because when I was a kid, I wanted to be a photographer of this. And I was like, I wonder if I can, get through the age scuzz and digitize that. And that's probably the one that means the most to me because in her kitchen, anything went because pigs flew.
Really?
So it's kind of that thing. And, with farmhouse chic being what it is.
Right.
So from there, it kind of snowballed. I've upgraded the embroidery machine a couple of times, and I've learned new techniques, and the things you can do on an embroidery machine are just insane.
Yeah.
I'll use the wallets as an example. So I used to have a studio downtown, and my neighbor was an upholsterer, and he would give me his offcuts. Just these small little pieces of things, and he figured I could do something with them.
Yeah.
So that's what this is repurposed leather. Kind of saved from a landfill as it were. But this is all done on the embroidery machine.
Okay.
So you get your pretty designs, it's fully lined, and it's all put together on the machine. The only thing I have to do is put the snap in.
Wow.
So it allows me to keep my prices down.
Yeah.
You know, the materials were free, and the machine does 90% of the work.
That's awesome.
So while I'm still the one making the designs and making it a thing, I'm able to produce these fairly quickly without actually having to do production work, which gets boring.
Yes. Understood.
My creative process is fueled by ADHD and Adderall. So I can bounce from place to place to place very, very quickly, and it looks chaotic for anybody who's watching it, but I know exactly what's going on all over the place.
And that's all that matters anyway.
And that's really all that matters. From there, I went kind of that vintage idea of hooped samplers. You know, when you first learn how to embroider, you almost always do a sampler of some sort, but I wanted to make it more modern. So I went with horoscope imagery and some pagan imagery as well. A lot of the shows that I do are those witchy, pagan, eclectic markets. They're kind of my people. And I like the idea of useful art. And useful is subjective. It can be something that just makes you smile in the morning, or it can be something that, you know, you carry your lunch to work with. So I like the idea that if your budget isn't large, you can still take home a piece of art that speaks to you. And from there, it turned into the stretched canvas pieces. Those were born from making mistakes on towels.
Really?
You know, getting your orientation wrong or whatnot, and pulling it off and being like, oh man, I did it again. Now what do I do with this? It's wasted material. No, it's not. 3D print a frame, stretch it over the frame, and bam, you've got a piece of art.
Cool.
And that it kind of became its own product.
Nice.
And you know, the hats were born of fiber is what I love. I have a thing for vintage. I have a thing for the Rat Pack. I know they don't have the squeaky clean reputation that we'd like to think of, but that whole genre of style. Maybe not those particular people, but that style, you know. The men in their dress pants and their wingtips, and you know, a good waistcoat, a pocket watch, and a hat, because you didn't leave the house without a hat. And it's my belief that you know, you can't have a bad hair day if you've got a good hat.
That is true.
Which is wonderful for women who, like me, have too much hair and it likes to get frizzy. Just scoop it up under your hat, call it good. So a lot of the pieces that I use, I buy broken jewelry by the pound, and then I'll either fix it, or if it's not too bad off, I just use it. Like this one's missing just a couple of rhinestones, and I could replace them, but they'd be way shinier than the older ones. And most of these pieces are 1920s to 1950s. So sourcing the same style of glass or rhinestone is really tricky. Usually what I'm doing is fixing a pin back or you know, rebending something into place. But it just it perpetuates that kind of vintage feel. I love lapel pins because they can be really simple or extremely ostentatious. The one I've got on this cloche, I love because it has got the tiniest little now I can't think what it's called, cameo on it. And I mean, it's tiny. It's about the size of 2 pinheads. But I love it. And this one's designed for somebody to put their hair up in a bun under.
Nice.
So I think a lot about men's fashion specifically, because typically when we see big hats outside of extremely floral hats, they are on men. You know, fedoras, top hats, things like that. And I like to take them and kind of feminize them a little bit. You know, give them a little bling, give them a little attitude almost. Even the one that I wear, it looks like it's tilted, but it's not. It's actually flat on my head. It's just that one side is up and one side is down. But it follows the line of my cheekbone with the uptick and the down tick, and it just gives me this little bit of elegance that I wouldn't normally have in my everyday life. And I feel like that's something you can get from a hat. Like, it can really become a part of your personality, but more importantly, it can make you stand a little taller and feel a little bit better about yourself.
Makes sense. Gives you that confidence.
I exude confidence. It's just I attribute that to my father, constantly telling me that it didn't matter that I was a girl. But I know that a lot of women who grew up did not have that. And if something as small as putting a hat on your head, which makes you feel a little cocky, gives you that self-confidence, then by all means, rock it. And I will help you find the one that fits your face.
We'll get there. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing all this with me. But what I need you to do is share with everybody where they can find all your great creations and support you.
So the easiest way to contact me directly is going to be through the Instagram page. It's kind of the one that dings loudest if I'm buzzing around the studio. As far as where I am, around the state on any given day, if you hit my webpage, which is www.kpknitcraft.com, there is an events tab. And every place that I am is in that events tab, complete with street address, so that if you need to GPS your way there, you can. And I'm kind of all over the place. So today I'm in Goochland. Next Saturday I will be in Charlottesville at the Shops at Stonefield for the Craft Seaville Mother's Day Market. So we'll be a little more floral by then. The following weekend I am at Shady Grove Methodist Church in Glen Allen for the Spring into Summer Festival. And then I have a weekend off.
Awesome. Congratulations. That's awesome. So make sure you go onto her Instagram and follow her. Some absolutely beautiful pieces and photos on there. Go to her Facebook and follow her as well. Again, thank you so much.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
No problem.
We're
Thanks
good.
for coming out.
Yeah, awesome. Well, good luck today.
Thank you.